No pressure.
Yeah, how about that? How about that? All right. I think so. Okay.
Did you see that first? All right. Good evening, everyone. Call the Western Bay Board of Directors meeting for July 21st to order. Natalie, could you verify that we have a quorum, please?
A quorum's achieved of 5 board members in attendance: Carl, Alex, Warren, Brian, and proof of notice was posted for the first session.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our second board meeting. With all that has been happening, seems like we've been in this position for a year. I want to begin by thanking the many individuals, 14 individuals, who have stepped up to volunteer for committees, and also the 5 members of the board, who spent a considerable amount of time and effort expended daily to oversee Western Bay operations and help make this a better community. Past few months, the job has literally been 24/7. We're a community of 614 single-family homes, and it takes a lot of work and dedication from our volunteers to stay up with all that's happening. We could use some help. Currently, less than 1% of our residents have agreed to volunteer. We all have very busy lives, but if you can afford time to work to make Western Bay the best it can be, we'd appreciate the help. Let me give you a few examples of a few of the things we've been working to address. A big one, clearly, is the pool. Everyone noticed it was green. I noticed it was green also. On most days, I come to the pool at least twice a day, and I don't even swim. So what are we doing about it? Following the efforts of the prior board, we looked at the companies they were considering and made a choice to have a new pool company, One Stop Pool Service. A significant improvement over our prior company, in my view. We identified maintenance and equipment problems, and we've initiated actions to correct both of them. And as a side, this was after the reserve study report indicated that the pool equipment was in satisfactory condition. We purchased chlorinators, we drained the sand, and it's still very cloudy. And I'm sure you all ask, why is it cloudy? Could it be because we have residents that jump the lock fence at night and open the gate and bring their friends in with dogs? Could it be that we have residents who drive chairs and other items into the pool that should not be in the pool? Could it be the residents that come in here with basketball equipment and play basketball from the pool? An individual was at the pool on Saturday and said to me he had to leave and take his young daughter with him because we had individuals out there smoking pot. And I was just told that some people passing across the walkway over there were smoking pot. These behaviors are all unacceptable and contribute to the situation that we have in the pool. None of us here on the board should be charged with the responsibility of policing this behavior 24/7. We even had complaints of the place being nasty, people not picking up after themselves. We hired a company to do the cleaning on weekends when parties are finished. It's still dirty. We all have to police ourselves. We can post rules, we can seek to enforce them, but we cannot be watching and observing every corner of Western Bay 100% of the time. It takes all of us to ensure that Western Bay is a place we can be proud of, a place that we want to call our home. We are all responsible. Responsibility is a good word to segue for me to talk briefly about tonight's meeting. We have a resolution that we will be voting on this evening. It's been very emotionally charged, and I understand it. The board and I take our responsibilities as board members very seriously, and we are offended by any suggestions to the contrary. We are all Western Bay homeowners and want what is in our best judgment, the best for Western Bay. We have seen the questions and comments. And we've responded to the questions with a frequently asked question document that has been posted. We've asked Attorney Brian Hess, one of our board attorneys from the Massey Burton Law Firm, to be here with us this evening. He's up here at the front of the desk. And if you have any questions, I'm sure he'll be able to address them. If we have any questions tonight, we're going to limit them to 3 minutes. And we certainly will do our best to answer any questions that you may have. We've listened to many diverse opinions and different perspectives. And in the end, we believe that we will vote what we believe is best for Western Bay. In closing, Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems like it is impossible until it's done." So with that, let's get the meeting started. I hope to keep it orderly and respectful. Let's get on with it. Thank you. You have the reports. Carl, give the landscaping and infrastructure report, please.
All right, for the infrastructure report, so far we have a new drain pipe from the Zebra Landing, general water that will be installed in 76 next month. The drain pipe will also get connected to a storm drain and Western Road, both lane. Hopefully that goes up to the water. We also have a backup for storm drain calculations that when we check it out, we see like people throwing bottles. Now, I don't know where it comes from, like the soda bottles and drinks and pavements. And they get into the storm drain and they get down into the catch basement and cause blockage because that water leaks to the ponds. So I can see where a lot of bottles was in the pond. So one thing we're gonna ask that when you see these things, I personally, when I'm driving around and I see bottles heading down, you know, pick it up. I carry them out in my car and I just throw them in, take it up. Or anything, you know, a dirty phone, whatever, because it costs us money. These things are expensive and to clean them out. So we ask everyone, not just me, or the board members, but everyone, when they see these things, or you see something running things down in those storm drain, please tell them not to do it. And these things are expensive. So anyway, we have a contractor that's going to be investigating it. I'm not going to be around to help, so I'm going to have Perry. He's going to be working with the contractor to make sure everything gets straightened out. So I have the drawings for you. Okay. The second thing we have we have the lightning that's damaged our back gate scanner. So it's down and to replace the scanner is like over $7,000. So what we're going to be doing, we have to run new wires. You know, I just happen to have a new controller, and which we found on eBay some time ago, because that scanner, the controller, they don't make that anymore. So we lost one about 3 years ago, because we found two. So I just happen to have one left, and today they had it reprogrammed and set up in 25, so that's there, but we're still waiting for the scanner to put in place. The scanner board, the motherboard, what we worked out is that you take it out, send it to the manufacturer, and they will troubleshoot it and repair it and send it back to us, rather than spending $7,000. So we're waiting for them to assess that and give us a price, see what that's going to be.
Just real quick, someone reported that it's hard to hear you online.
Yeah.
Oh,
Somebody was there, yeah. So that's what's going on with the scanner back. That might take a couple of weeks before it's getting line. But
I noticed on some of the communications that it says we have to put in new conduits and wires. Wire, I understand, but why do we have to put in new conduit?
because when they first run those wires, they didn't put it in a conduit. They just run this pure wire underground on the sidewalk. So it's easier to just hang them out rather than troubleshoot it. Take more time, you know? So let's pull out those wire and put them in the conduit instead, because they just buried under the ground. So that's the reason why. Okay, so the contractor should develop sometime this week doing that part of the work. But then they were able to get the controller up program and get it on the modem so it can work. But then this week they're going to be running the conduit cables, new cables.
So what's the timetable and anticipated date fix?
The timetable, this is what we're waiting for now. We did, I took the board out, so they sent it to the, when they sent it to the manufacturer. Once the manufacturer get it and assess the board, then we'll have a better idea of the time. But right now, we can't tell until the board reach the manufacturer and they're able to do an diagnostic on the board to see what's the real problem. Because to buy a new one is like $7,000. Which can cost us maybe about 1,500 or so to repair. But that's where we are at this moment. Any other question?
Is it under warranty?
No, it got 5 years warranty and this is 7 years, so it's warranty's over.
Of that drainage on that back wall, are you gonna explain, I saw the notes a little bit later, what they're gonna do with that drain where it's like off? We talked about that in front of my home.
It's my your home, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's, I'm the only one that's getting it right now.
Oh, yes.
So I just want an understanding of what's happening with that drain, like what exactly.
Well, the wall itself has drain lines into it. And what happened, one of them seemed like a disconnect. So we have to reconnect that and put a new line back and to lead the water back into the storm drain.
Right.
Carl, because I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be out there with the crew that's gonna come out. So what it does right now, the way they took it before, they ran it between the two houses straight out and put a pop-up.
Yes.
Which you can see what it's gonna be doing. Well, if you go a little bit north, there's a drop inlet right there in the curve.
Okay, yeah,
So what they're gonna do, instead of bringing it down in between those two houses there, they're gonna take and run it north along the wall. And then go over to the wall back here, the retaining wall. They're gonna take it, turn it north and run north on that wall. And then come down right by, so they can come out where that storm. drain is.
so it's gonna come through my backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
You won't even know it because I guarantee you talk to me, when the sod goes back down, it's not gonna be like how it is over there. It's gonna be done right.
There's
Okay.
a 5 feet easement back there, so.
So it's within the easement then?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it will come down in between the two houses. That way, all they have to do is go into the one sidewalk, then they'll have to dig out behind that inlet out there. And they'll core the side, basically, they'll cut a big round hole in it and tie that straight in there, so there'll be no more water going on the sidewalk. It'll go straight into the inlet. It's been done a few other places around here. So if you come out more, and once it's all done, you'll start hearing water dropping that inlet because that's where it's going.
What's the time frame on that?
They are coming out this second.
8/6 is when they do it. I haven't met the
8/6,
contractor yet.
I'm sorry.
He said he's gonna be gone, so that's why I'm taking it over.
Okay,
It really shouldn't take them more than 3 days to do that.
okay.
But I haven't met the contractor yet, but once I do, I'll be glad to, Carl will make sure I have your information.
Yeah.
I'll get up with you and let you know, okay?
All right, that sounds good.
Okay, and Natalie, please make note that when we dealing with Charles and Nick, yeah, include Terry.
Yeah, Terry's included on.
Yes.
Okay. You could CC me wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
Like,
No, sorry.
any other question? I guess I'm fine.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. Great information.
Warren, I will send you the guidance.
Send me the report.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Read communications.
Yes, good evening, board. A presentation of the Western Bay Homeowners Association Communication Committee was provided at the board meeting in June. The presentation at that time included the history of the committee and a plan of action for the balance of 2025. The committee has now been reconstituted. Current members include Ashley Doe, Christopher Campo, David Cohen, Paul Smith, and Deborah Willis. And I've agreed to serve as the committee chairperson. And I want to thank them for their efforts. It's a lot of work in terms of communication, and I think you have a really good team. The following is a summation of the group's activity since the June board meeting. The committee met at a homeowner's residence on July 1st, 2025 for its first meeting since 2023. Committee discussed the board's desire to enhance transparency and provide useful and timely information to Western Bay residents. The committee charter was reviewed and the committee reviewed and discussed the Western Bay communication plan and its goals for 2025. The plan and the goals have been submitted to the board. The committee met again by conference call on July 8th. The committee has established priority action items and are working on them. They include inventorying existing communication vehicles, audit and update information, identify administrators, develop a process for posting the information, and list the types of information communicated along the various tools. Also establish and standardize the communication structure and operating processes for Western Bay. Secondly, to clean up Dwelling Live and look to establish a process to review homeowner requests posted on that platform. In the past, they really haven't been followed. And so we're going to attempt to be able to at least acknowledge and get back to homeowners who post things in that way. They discussed and continue to research possible platforms, establishment of a community newsletter, discuss community outreach events, possibly scheduling the first event in the fall. Committee also drafted and sent to the board a document entitled Your New Board at Work and posted it on Dwelling Live. The plan is for the committee to provide regular updates on board accomplishments and provide more timely information to Western Bay residents on the various communication platforms, be they email, Dwelling Live, or electronic bulletin board. Drafted and later posted an announcement informing residents of the meeting to discuss the reserve study. Posted numerous informational announcements on the electronic bulletin board. And the plan right now is for the committee to meet every 2 or 3 weeks at a minimum monthly. And that's the committee's report next month.
Great, thank you. Finance and budget.
Okay, Finance Committee, this will also, if you notice your agenda, 2 items down says Treasurer. This will be a combined Finance Committee / Treasurer report. Excuse me. And there are some sheets in the back, 20 of them, so there should be enough for everybody if you pick one up. But just a high level overview in our cash accounts. We currently hold $623,563. That's down $113,000 from the previous month. But we did make the insurance payment, that's the annual payment for all our coverage of $122,460. So that is what makes up that variance. That next section down, the cash reserves is 2.616 million, 2,616,317. That's up 16,000 from last month, 15,998. And you moving on forward into the second page, the interest on all the reserve accounts, which you can see the balance of all those. We earned so far this year $33,410 in interest on the monies that are in those reserve accounts. That's up $5,600 from last month. And moving forward just a couple of spaces, the operating budget for the year so far, we are over budget on expenses by $30,935. So a variety of reasons in here, no one major hit necessarily, a lot of little ones here and there. The income is exactly on budget as it should be. Assessment income for the month was $93,534. And the way that works, we pay our assessments quarterly, but that's allocated evenly across all 12 months of the year, so we don't get these huge spikes in actual reported income. So any questions? All right, great, thank you.
Very appreciative.
Thank you, sir. Very welcome.
Last report is a security report. A couple of things that I'll mention again, I mentioned in my president's remarks. Talked about the instances of the individuals who jump the fence when the fence is locked at night and allow their friends and animals to come in. Our concern is that on one occasion we called a Hawaii Police Department. Unfortunately, we didn't have a board member or someone here to request that they be trespassed. We're looking at different options as far as what we should do for individuals that continue jumping the fence and letting folks in. Talked about the individual smoking pot. One last thing, we apologize again for the condition of the gate. Certainly, we're doing the best that we can to get it back online. I know it's an inconvenience to many of the folks that live over in Eagles Landing area. We hope that it'll be up and running again in a couple of weeks, so. In the interim, we'll have to use the front gate to come back in. Yes,
Concerned about that gate scenario was going on around 1 PM or 1:05, and somebody was waiting to come in and they came through the out gate and didn't catch the tires.
it didn't,
Didn't catch the tires, I turned around to make sure.
okay,
And they just, you get going through there, they have one signal flat.
Was it an SUV or you know what kind of
It was not,
car?
it was just a regular car.
They were really
Around
unfortunate.
1:05 PM, you pull it up on the camera back there, before me,
The what, please, Saturday at what time?
around 1:05 PM. So if you pull it up on the camera, you'll see somebody comes through there as we're going out, you pull right in there.
Okay, thanks.
I'm aware of a truck that tried that and 2 of his tires got flat, so.
Only person that do it, maybe that the cameras, so there are cameras at the gate back there that recording continuously,
Yes,
and over when people are jumping the gate or. And I mean, the cameras where you can view and see how all of this is happening.
yes, there are cameras there. The problem is that we have limited personnel on board, and we're looking at ways to increase the limited personnel that we have. Right now, the personnel that we have is assigned to the gate. And so it's, well, we might see something back here, unless we call police department. And then we would have to respond with the police department to take an action on the individuals once they are taken into custody.
This was, do the cameras also pick up audio or no?
I'm sorry,
Does the camera also pick up audio or no?
some of the cameras do,
Do those specific? The ones that's in the back, are they picking up audio or
nothing about it.
can we get them where they get the audio? That would help also identify people and what's going on, why they're letting people in, so everything else is just speculation as far as, yeah, we see somebody climbing, but yeah, the data will also identify.
It's something that we look at. We're looking at different things to try and curtail some of the activity that's going on.
Do you have a license plate camera at your gate?
I'm sorry,
License plate camera?
Yes.
yes, we do.
That doesn't have audio.
I'm sorry.
The license plate cameras do not have audio.
Well, it does help in a way if it's registered to a certain residences, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't have access to bring up who it's for.
Right, yeah, you can get the license plate, but
Right.
you can't get all.
And that's what we're asking. We have a concerted effort to try and clean up dwelling life. We're asking individuals to, make sure their accounts are accurate. And we're certainly pushing out most of the messages through dwellings live to get the residents to use dwelling live. Yes,
You're not able to extrapolate who the people are that are coming through the gate unannounced. And the reason why I'm asking is I thought we had Leland, which was collecting the data for the passes. And I thought there would be some way to extrapolate that.
In this case, they came out the exit, so the barcode reader would not have picked it up.
Right. But still, the camera license correct.
It should, now it's still, I'm gonna check. We're just hearing about this now, but yes, it's 24/7, so we should be able to get the license plate.
any other questions?
I have one thing to say, since we have everyone here, and that's about the retaining wall over by Eagles Landing. Madeleine, I'm gonna ask that since I'm out, we can ask the landscaping guys to see how we can hit the tree weeds that's going on the wall.
Yeah, I told him today, and he said that he would like to meet with the board of to go over the options for that. He said he did treat them 2 weeks ago.
I see the top look like it treated like it,
Yeah,
but the sides. where
he
the
did do
weeds
some
were out.
treatments, but he wants to go over options with you, so,
Um,
on further treatments.
okay,
for the weeds.
Amazing clarity.
I'll get with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And some people not letting the maintenance guys in, their backyard to spray the wall. So that's something maybe we need to start to send out. I think we used it, but it didn't work. Open the gate for them, to let the maintenance guys know.
Well, we can send out an announcement on July Live if you go on Eagles. Maybe all, but we're gonna have periodic maintenance coming in and out to spray the weeds.
Because I was back there investigating, looking at the wall and doing it, that's how it was at the wall. Okay.
You know,
If we're going to old business, like to, everyone's had an opportunity to review the, prior minutes from June 23rd. We can entertain a motion to approve, prior minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
just need a second, please.
Oh, so then.
So moved. It was done by, Brian, he moved it, second. Second.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay. You took me here, look at me.
Flip the official board coin. Do you have?
Seconded by Alex.
Got it.
And before we talk about the resolutions, I have a presentation by Terry Crick on the street trees.
Okay,
With current lights.
my name's Terry, if y'all don't know me, I've been here since 2004, it's like the third house in here, so I've watched this progression and asked many questions. And I'm just gonna take you through the documents and show you the street treaty issues and what stuff is done. I'm not putting blame, I'm not slamming anyone. I'm just walking you through the documents so people they understand, and there are some issues that the board is dealing with on the off the. So. So supporting documents, I'm gonna cover several documents. Was anyone here at the last meeting when I covered the sidewalk issue? Okay, it just kind of all ties into it, okay?
Can we put the camera on?
So. Camera, someone said put the camera on. All right, the first one is the development agreement. Pay attention to these dates, so but when we go back towards the end and we cover stuff, you'll see how dates line up and why things are important. The development agreement is basically when the developer wants to build an HOA, they go to the city of HOA, says, hey, here's what we want to build, here's the development. And the city says, okay, if we're gonna build it, here's the agreement you have to abide by and things to do, go look at some of the development, but basically it's a contract between the developer and the city. Okay, not us, not the homeowner. Second one is our amended and restated Declaration of Covenants, DCCRs, as people know it, that's what we live by, that's the thing that tells us what we have to do and stuff. We're also going to talk about the HOA Land Development Code. This is what tells people what you have to do when you build developments, and if you, I don't care whether you're doing housing or you're doing business, you're going to develop land in a HOA, they have a code that tells you what you have to do. Oops, sorry. Come on, mouse. Come on, mouse. There we go. Last one is, we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna show you the city commission meeting that took place on September 17th, 2013. Y'all are here when I haven't been overseas for 4 years, so I missed all this stuff. But they went to the city of Ocoee to get something passed, which promulgated all the other actions that were taken, so we'll look at that. All right. So in what's important in the development agreement is a statement in there. This is what pushed the previous board back in 2013 to take some actions. It says, this is straight out of that development agreement. So the developer hereby agrees that the property shall be developed in accordance with and made subject to those certain conditions which attach in Exhibit B. In development agreement, there's 3 exhibits. A, which is basically that a whole bunch of survey forth that says, here's our development, here's what it looks like. And they submit a bunch of plans and plans. Exhibit B tells any specific conditions that they want the developer to do. And exhibit C is where they put waivers in. Right? Now, the condition they wanted to talk about was number 37, if y'all can see the bottom. In that development agreement on condition 37, it says a street tree shall be provided in the front of each single family lot. 2 street trees if you have a corner lot. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the house to be constructed. Kind of funny because Carl knows we've had this conversation. He's been here back in 2004 also. When I moved in my house, there was no tree planted there. Because it's that street tree was not part of the plan for your trees and shrubs and all that stuff. With your landscaping, it's not. It's part of the development and put in there. I didn't know actually until a few days ago. The reason we got those trees, someone called or sent an email says, hey, you're supposed to have street trees there. Turned out to be him. He made the call. I came home one day, there was a tree. So the trees got planted. Yes. You started it, Carl. Your fault.
There was no tree. But I was a good people. I said, what do they want to know? You know, I come back Sunday. I said, well, where's the trees? And they said, they do have trees. And also, where am I supposed to? So please put them.
Okay, very good. So if you look at our DCC and ours, this is the statement right out of section 1121, page 61. It says additionally, pursuant to the development agreement, hey, we just talked about that, right? Each lot shall be required to have a street tree, and it goes on down and talks all about it. Coincidentally, this is exactly, we're going to talk about land development code later that HOA has. That's a direct reading from the HOA land development code. But here's the only place in our documents that tell us as homeowners, if you had a tree planted where you have some direct responsibility for that tree. And it really only applies to those individuals that live in the house when the tree is planted, because it says it will be the responsibility of the owner of the lot to ensure the health and survival of each tree for a minimum of 12 months. And if it fails to live, guess what? You have to replace it and ensure it survives for 12 months. Why is that? When they built the development, all the common property down the main road, what do they have in here? Irrigation. The association pays to operate pumps and irrigates all those trees to ensure they survive. The common area in the front, that little 6 foot from the back of the sidewalk to the curb, they did not put irrigation in. That would be crazy to try to do that. So they put it on the homeowner. You got to make sure it survives that first year. If it does, the tree's still live. But that's the only place you'll see a direct responsibility of a homeowner ensuring that tree survives. Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We go to 2015, Westyn told us that the tree had to be put up then by 2017. You can tell you guys have to put trees up because they were messing up the sidewalk.
Okay, we'll get into all that, okay? Good question. Hold on. Let me just walk. Yeah, so let me walk you through the rest of this. So in about 2012 and 13, which is when everything was turned over from the developer to the association, they realized, hey, we have a problem. The trees they put in there, even though they're on the approved tree list, within the HOA land development code, they really shouldn't be planted being that small over there. They grow up, the roots grow out, they have all kinds of problems. So they knew that was a problem, so the meetings were held, discussions on how to address this. An approach would be made to this.
Both.
Say again?
It was both. City had to be in the city hall for those meetings and then.
Yeah. So on September, so they decided to go to the city finally to get a vote on. And they did on September 17, 2013. They went to the city and they presented everything. And this is from the city minutes from that date in 2013. They said they wanted to get condition 37 removed from the development code. development agreement. City even said, hey, condition 37 is just a reiteration of the land development code, Article 6. So they voted on it, says, hey, commission voted 5-0, says, remove, you can remove, that can be removed. So with that removed, if you go back to the DCCRs were said pursuant to the development agreement, you have to plant these trees. Condition 37 says you gotta plant those trees prior, so and so, that got away. So with that done, with the agreement, city delete condition 37, homeowner association moved forward with several actions. They made rules for the removal of the trees. They signed costs to removal to the homeowners, assigning costs for sidewalk, curb, road, utility repair, homeowners removed if they didn't remove those trees. That's what was done. So my question had always been, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense. And what is it? So let me look through all this. So looking through the documents, I found some issues. I'm just going to point them out to you. So again, we're going to look at these documents, the development agreement. Let's to get through this stuff. So DCR section 1121, page 61, that's where it says pursuant to the development agreement, you got to plant these trees, okay? 37, let's go back and look at that because this is where it's important. Give me just a minute, fine, because like it's very hard to move these things around.
Reed is feeling your pain about that.
Yes, he's gonna say, hey, you said it to me, right? Basically, let me just tell you what it said. When it said in there that right here, a street tree shall be provided in front of each home prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. That was not a condition to plant the trees. That was a condition of when. Hold on this, but I'll show you more later. It was saying when those trees had to be planted. Not that they had to be planted, but when. I'll take you more of that in just a second. So that was the first one. Now the second one. So they asked permission to delete, to have 37 deleted from the developer's agreement. I pulled the most recent 2 months ago development agreement from the city. That condition still exists. It was never deleted. I pulled probably close to 50 documents from the city regarding all this, trying to find where was the stuff deleted, where was all this information. So right now, if you pull the current development agreement and all revisions, nowhere was that deleted. Probably a technical issue. They could say, hey, they approved it, it should be, it's, but that's just one of them that was found. So let's assume, even though it wasn't moved, it's gone. So how do we read the development agreement in the documents? So condition 37 removed. Let's go back to the development agreement. We go all the way up to the front of the documents. The first part where I read to you earlier before, number 2, the developer hereby agrees the property shall be developed in accordance with, remember I told exhibit B, Those are the conditions. Any of those conditions there, that condition's gone now, 37 doesn't exist, so when we look at this for the street trees. Now, if we go down to 3, except as expressly set forth in the agreement and the preliminary plans, it is agreed that the final plans and all preliminary and final site plans for the property or any portion of shall conform to what? The HOA Land Development Code in effect at the time of the approval of this plans. So there's no condition, you still have the HOA Land Development Code. This is where it gets interesting at the time. So I had to go back and say, okay, what HOA Land Development, remember this was signed, this document was signed in 2001. So I had to find what document was in place. The document that was in place, you had to go all the way back to 1992. In 1992, the city ordinance 9216, they codified, and put in place Exhibit A, which is the City of HOA Land Development Agreement. That's when it first came, or code, first came into being, 1992. So you said, okay, well, this document was signed in 2001. Has anything changed from here from 92 to 2001? There were 7 revisions in place. None of the revisions affected what we're going to look at. We need to go all the way down to $18,158, right? Come on. 158. Right here. This is what is done in this article, section 6.10.B.2. And it's street trees. So you read the our DCCRs, it says pursuant to the development agreement, you have to plant these trees. You go over to the development agreement, condition 37 was taken out, okay. But the development agreement still says you still have to follow the HOA Land Development Code. HOA Land Development Code, it was in place at the time, is this one right here, it says you have to have trees. The only thing that's been removed was condition 37, we said, what? When they had to be planted before you get a certificate of occupancy. So the requirement still exists with 37 gone. So, question, who actually governs Western Bay? Pardon? Who actually governs Western Bay? City of Foley, or we govern ourselves? We govern ourselves in a part of this place being developed, being put in place by this development agreement. So we got bylaw in our in-house. Do we supersede the HOA? Do we supersede us? And we still have, and what he's asking is, we still have the DCR says you have to have trees. Per the land development code. So our own documents tell us we have to follow the development agreement. The development agreement says you have to follow the HOA Land Development Code, and the HOA Land Development Code says you have to have that. Now, I said, well, hey, has anything changed between even then and now with the HOA Land Development Code? So if you go pull the 2024 version of the HOA Land Development Code, you will find that section 6.10.B.2 reads exactly the same it reads right now, has not been changed. So those are the 7 revisions I mentioned that took place between 1992 and 2001. And again, there's the one, this is September 2024. There's how it reads. And there's a one from 1992, reads the same. So it really hasn't changed. But it doesn't matter because the code says we have to follow that one right there. So I said, hey, all this still says we have to have trees, so there's gotta be something else. Is there any other document that something's done? I had pulled and started to search every document I found. So I reached out to our commissioner, Scott Kennedy. Exchanged a bunch of emails with him, spent some time on the phone with him saying, here's what I'm looking at. Here's what he goes, Terry, he said I was not a commissioner at the time, but I sat on the boards, I remember all this. He said, I haven't seen any other document, but he says, you know what? Let's reach out to Mike Rimmer, who is the assistant city manager currently at City of Ocoee. He says he knows this whole thing also. So he wrote an email asking, and I tagged along on that email and asked them, and I can pull it up if you want to see it. It says, hey, this is what we read. Is there another document that took away the requirement for the street trees that I don't have or that we don't know about, because we haven't been able to pull anything out of any records? Please share it with us if there is one. We received nothing. Nothing back. So that's where we stand. I just brought this information before and said, here's what I'm doing. Where do we stand on this? So that's my presentation, just to walk you through the document so you understand what we were looking at, what we saw, and something doesn't line up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for everything you've done. And this guy's not, but this falls on me. Like, say again, this falls on me. Like, them and the attorney, how do they talk to all this? I appreciate everything you've done, a lot of work. The question is going back to me. Like, finding out from them what contract they signed with the city. And how do we get next to know? Because it should have been their attorney's hand.
Let me also show you what.
Yeah.
So, one question, so when you guys took over in when did you guys pick up the property?
2007.
One question, something must be there because how, based on the presentation, the city rules and the ECCI, how come she was like it? Don't have no duties.
How come? Who does it?
Who
Who stopped it from? I don't know. Who stopped it from?
Richmond?
Told them about it was.
Yeah, we're voting back to the. Richmond said that we want to put in trees, but it was David Weekly back here, and then Richmond took over. We were the second or third house with that. So at first they were saying we had to have trees, we didn't have trees, the trees got put in, like I said, a couple years later, you guys got pulled up because they're rude. Rudy was up. So it was Richmond builders kind of getting this information. I'm not sure that's coming from people like, oh, maybe you had to have three, that you can have that three, you had to have two in the backyard, and that stuff just. That kind of haywire.
And again, that's what all the questions are. So I can take you and show you one more document here. This is what should have happened. To really get rid of the trees. Remember I mentioned in the development agreement, there's a section, exhibit A, which is basically all the survey says, here's what our development, here's all the lines, everywhere you go, survey. B was any specific condition, you could put it, set in there. We want all mailboxes to be painted. The Cody Land Development said it had to be painted black. We said, no, we want them painted purple. You'd have to paint them purple. So then this exhibit C, which is waivers. So if we really want to get rid of the trees correctly by the documents and contracts that are signed that are in place, if we go pull them, condition 37 should have been removed, which is number one. Number two, they would have had to add, you see what I wrote here in yellow? They would have had on exhibit C under waivers, section 610D2, street tree requirements, waive street tree requirements. Why? Because it's causing damage. If they would have done that at the same meeting, all the requirements from the Cody Land Development Agreement and the requirement from the Land Development Code would have been taken away from the development that would have handled. You still would have had to deal with the DCCR, they could argue, it says pursuant to, they got rid of it all, so we don't have to do it. But it wasn't done, so here is, it's like, so where do we sit? Are we out of compliance with the city by having our trees gone?
We can't be, because they gave us COs. At least one was later. We got COs.
So did I.
They
Says, still doesn't mean you're not out of compliance, that's the question.
That's why I said some document, some base.
But that's, we don't have it.
I don't represent the city, so I can't answer it. Right,
We're just asking, why are you here?
because I was asked to be here.
Okay.
Something you may want to look into from Orange County, Florida, legislation regarding trees, particularly regarding development and tree removal is primary covered by ordinance number 2023-35, chapter 15, environmental control, article 8, tree protection removal, chapter 24, landscaping, watering, and open space, constitutional. We may want to look at these documents.
Right, Orange County always had jurisdiction on the city limits. If you
But
just.
but development signed an agreement with a city, and the city has the code, so that's what it's saying right there.
The city replaces the county's authority within the city limits.
Environments might be tricky, might be either good or bad.
So those are the questions that are brought because, hey, this doesn't line up with what documents say. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment if possible.
Someone wants to make a comment?
Yeah, that's me, Greg Kiefler.
Go ahead, Greg.
When the city commission votes unanimously to remove a requirement for the trees, that is an expressed desire on their part, supersedes anything that conflicts that in other documents. They clearly voted unanimously, I was there, to get rid of the requirement for trees. And Mr. Rumor and Mr. Shadricks, now the city manager, were involved very heavily at that time, and they were very, very aware of everything we were doing. So this is an issue of nitpicking versus what the intent of the city commission was. The city commission's intent was clear. They knew, and this was not something we just showed up at a city commission meeting with and requested. We worked this for months, many months, with Mr. Rumor, with our district commissioner at the time. And everybody knew exactly what was going on and why we were doing it. And so I think if you're going to hang your hat on the fact that there might be some conflicting language elsewhere, the city commission has spoken as to what their desire is for the requirement for street trees. I'm absolutely positive that will hold up in a court of law.
You know, from my perspective as an attorney, I've not spoken to anybody with the city about this at all. So the city end of all of this is a new part of the analysis that I've done. I've done only an analysis of the association's documents and the requirements for the association. These are oranges and tangerines. They're related, but they're two totally different things. As to the city requirements, I do have some level of concern on behalf of my client, which is the association. I'm not willing to advise my client to just step forward and say, well, the city says it's okay, until we're sure that the city says it's okay. And I think based on some of the things that we've seen tonight, there's still some uncertainty about that. And I think the best advice, at least in terms of the city requirements, is to try to get that level of assurance from the city in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's correspondence from the city manager, whether it's correspondence from the city attorney, to say, look, yes, there may be some things that weren't done procedurally that should have been done, but the intent was there, as this gentleman is saying, And the way that the city will look at it is that we will no longer enforce that requirement within Western Bay. That's what I would hope to receive. Sometimes you don't receive that level of assurance, just from my experience working with different municipalities.
I did find some potential also useful information for you, sir. Orange County, Florida outlines specific requirements for street trees, including planting, preservation, and removal. Their city code ordinance, new development and redevelopment, new development must include a tree replacement plan. Structure plan approval can include permission for necessary tree removal and grading. Efforts should be made to preserve heritage and specimen trees, selecting setbacks and buffer areas. So that might be a loophole that's started, like, there's a grading issue where certain trees gotta go, stuff like that.
Right, but you're saying that's an Orange County ordinance.
Yes.
That would not apply within the city limits of the city of Oakland. Yeah, the city would have home rule within the city limits to be able to determine those sorts of development standards.
Greg, thank you for
That would apply to unincorporated Orange County, which may be some of the neighborhoods around here. I don't know where the city limits are. But within Orange County, that would apply. They may be HOA addresses per the postal service. But within the city limits of HOA, which I understand you guys are here, there would be different requirements per the city.
You can see the situation here. We've got conflicting confusion. What are we compliant with the city? Are we out of compliance with the city? We don't know. That's why that piece is going to take a little bit more time. And Warren asked me to, I guess I talk louder than he does. I don't know, but anyway, just so we can hear. Warren asked me to introduce the resolution. Because of all these legalities and unanswered questions, we can't really address with a resolution of the trees themselves. What we do have the authority over as a board is the maintenance of the sidewalks that are being damaged by said trees. And we can also clarify some of the terminology that's not completely clear as to what it means to maintain that area between the edge of the curve, 6 feet back, toward the home, which is, as I understand, 6 inches past the sidewalk on your home side, that area. So that's what this resolution is doing. It's dealing with the sidewalk issue. Is it a core? No, the trees are, if you pardon the pun, kind of the root cause of our issue, right? But the trees we can't exactly deal with until we get those legal answers, 100% I's dotted and T's crossed. That's our responsibility as board members with the fiduciary legal responsibility to make sure everything is done right. We want to make sure that is done right. What we can do is address the sidewalk issue, which is what this resolution speaks to.
I have some questions for the attorney regarding this topic.
Sure.
Okay, in front of every home, there is a common area with a sidewalk and a grassy area between the sidewalk and the curb of the road. In many of those areas, there are trees that were planted as part of the development agreement with the city. Question 1, who owns the trees in the common areas in front of those homes where those trees still exist? The HOA or the homeowner?
The association.
Okay. Question 2, who is responsible for liability insurance for these common areas? The HOA or the homeowner?
The association.
Question 3, if a hurricane blows the tree over and the tree lands on a car legally parked in the street, who is responsible for the damage to the car and the cleanup of the tree? The HOA or the homeowner?
The homeowner.
Is responsible for the car?
Correct.
But it's not his tree.
God.
Pardon?
That's the law about trees that goes back for eons and centuries. Because it's an act of God, a weather event. You don't have responsibility for what happens to the tree on your property. It's where the tree lands, that owner has the responsibility.
But it's on the street, he said it's on the street.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
But
Unless you prove it.
Unless you can prove that it was somehow ill-maintained, and even beyond ill-maintained, that the owner should have known the tree was ill-maintained as a part of that.
Excuse me, so.
But so does this mean that the homeowner needs to provide liability insurance for the common area?
Issue that most people don't understand. It is the way it's been for centuries in Florida, in the United States, in the English common law with regard to trees. As to acts of God, the owner of the tree is not responsible for an event where the tree falls over. It's the owner of the property where the tree lands that's responsible for the
But
damage.
if the tree,
Most people, it doesn't make sense.
So
It's all the way it's been.
If it falls on the road, the owner of the road is the
HOA,
HOA.
So they have to pay to remove
correct,
the damage.
correct.
so my question was, if the,
It's the association's tree and it comes down on the association's property, the association would be responsible for removing the tree.
okay, my fourth question, when the tree fell over due to this hurricane, if the tree roots came up and lifted the sidewalk, who would be responsible for the sidewalk repair, the HOA or the homeowner? Because the tree belongs to the HOA.
The association, because the association owns the sidewalk.
Okay, so we've established that if the tree roots lift the sidewalk due to natural growth, who is responsible for the sidewalk repairs, the HOA or the homeowner?
The association.
Okay, we've established that. So would you not agree we've established who owns the tree and who is liable for the tree and who's responsible for repair damage to the sidewalk caused by the tree?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Every single.
So regardless of the development agreement and all that other stuff, the liability falls on the HOA.
Correct.
And that's what this resolution is addressing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the questions and comments.
If the sidewalk is the homeowners associations, why is it the responsibility of the homeowner to remove mold, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Because the association's covenants require it. And it literally says in sections 8.2 to 8.4, the owner's responsibility to maintain that even though it's not on the owner's lot. And it's very clear that even though it's not on the owner's lot, it's still that adjacent owner's responsibility to maintain.
Yeah, it's pretty specific what it tells you to do.
Yeah. It's an unusual provision, candidly.
Got a question.
Question in the back.
I have a question. So you have to pressure wash it, but maintain, like if there's a chip or something, or there's a large damage, someone drops bowling ball and it cracks the sidewalks. That
So the real key here comes down to if there's an intentional act or a negligent act of the owner that damages the sidewalk. And that's going to be fact specific, depending on what happens. Generally speaking, because what the motion, the policy is intending to address is the natural growth from the tree roots. Okay, those kind of circumstances. I come out there with a sledgehammer one day because I'm angry about something and I destroy the sidewalk. That I feel comfortable with the association assigning responsibility for that repair to the owner. What we're talking about here as a part of this motion is that natural growth that's happening from the street trees.
stuff like that, just purely natural stuff.
Correct. The act of God type stuff that is really normal. The normal type stuff, the normal wear and tear stuff, I believe is the responsibility of the association per the ownership of the property as well as the association's documents.
Fully understanding about the trees, that you explained. If there's any auto accident and it wrecks the sidewalk, is that a homeowner insurance or is that on the HOA?
So that one could get complicated. Just because of the different parties that are involved. It would be the association that would have a claim as the underlying property owner and the owner of the sidewalk. So they could potentially have a claim against the party that damaged the sidewalk as part of the car accident. So that could be a claim on that insurance policy of that driver, whoever was involved in the accident.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
This is William Crawford. I was on the board at the time back in 2013 and such. My question is if it's been determined that the trees are the property of the association, and at that time, a HOA released us. Now that we've been going over this, but at the time, a HOA released us from having to have those trees, and they said that we could have them removed. Now we had homeowners that did not want to have them removed. Now, as the owners of the trees, the association could have removed all of the trees, but to keep peace and consideration to the homeowners, we had them agree in writing that if they wanted to keep that tree, then they assumed the responsibility for that tree. Now, we did that through signed letters and such like that, according to what our attorney at the time had told us to do. Now, how does that come into play? Shouldn't the homeowners now be responsible for any damages by those trees because they have taken on the responsibility of those trees instead of allowing the association to remove the trees?
I haven't analyzed any of those agreements. I've not been presented with any of those agreements to analyze, provided that they exist. The concern that I have is your question has a few assumptions that I don't necessarily believe are clear enough to advise my client to just go ahead and follow those agreements, even if those agreements were in place. So in summary, I have a couple layers of concern with regard to removal of the trees until there's a form of clarification from the city that that's okay to do that. So that's layer one that I have concern over. Layer two that I have a concern over is the actual state of those agreements, whether they are an enforceable agreement between both of those parties, whether that agreement would then be enforceable against the next property owner if we've had property ownership change, etc. So there's layers of concerns that I can't answer your question directly. But what I can say is in the general case, even despite anything that may have been agreed to that you've just addressed, I still believe the association has the ability to follow and probably should be following its governing documents with regard to responsibility for the sidewalks, which I believe, which is mentioned in the resolution, that there's a number of provisions in the documents that are quite clear that the association has responsibility for the maintenance, the repair and replacement of the sidewalks.
As a follow-up to that, many residents did not sign that agreement. So how did the HOA try to hold those members liable for the damage in the tree when they never signed anything in the first place?
Well, and without me seeing those agreements, I can't answer that, but I share that same concern.
To my knowledge, the only ones that we were holding to that were those who had the original owners who had signed on. We weren't applying that to those who did not. I can't address that further though.
Well, I can tell you, I for one did not sign that agreement because I considered it a coercion agreement. And the letter even stated, if you don't sign this, you're going to be responsible. Well, how could that possibly be?
There's one more comment in the room.
So did the association cut down the trees, or did the association tell the homeowners they were responsible, get your name on the list, and you have to pay to have the tree cut down?
Neither.
There's actually three things going on.
It's Greg Kiefler. I can address that.
Go ahead, sir.
The association at that time, the association well, let me back up just a little bit. When we first discovered this problem back in 2013, shortly after we took over the HOA from the developer, we realized there was a tremendous financial liability in front of us, and we knew we had a fiduciary responsibility to do something to avert that. So our initial approach was to cut down all the street trees. Of course, we had to work that with the city. The city was a little bit reluctant about that. But also, there were probably two dozen or so homeowners that were very vehemently against taking out the trees. So what we sought was a way through this where we could protect the association against the financial liability, which was our fiduciary responsibility, yet at the same time allow the homeowners who wanted to keep and maintain their tree the opportunity to do that. That's how we arrived at this situation. And the city was very heavily involved. In fact, it was very important to the city that the individual homeowners had the call on taking out the tree or not. I would simply like to point out that as a result of the policy, we had over 450 street trees at that time. There's under 140 of them left. So over 300 of the homeowners have fulfilled their responsibility to avoid damaging the sidewalks. To try to separate the cause of the damage to the sidewalks from the trees or from the repair of the sidewalks makes no sense to me whatsoever. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, that's some background.
Well, appreciate the background. It's super helpful, and we read all that history that was sent to us on that. And, you know, speaking candidly here, Mr. Keithler, my heart is out to you guys who were on the board at the time. The developer handed a problem off to you of his own making by using builder grade trees. Now, granted, it was 2008, market was crashing, he did the cheapest thing he could, but he handed you guys a time bomb. And you dealt with it in the best way you possibly could. And I'm glad I was not on that board at the time. I think we can all agree to that. You were handed a difficult situation and you made the best decision you could with the information and the facts you had at the time. But the reason this resolution is, in a sense, separating the sidewalks from the trees, again, they're intricately related, is again that legal issue to get the I's dotted and the T's crossed on are we exactly in compliance or not. There's still some city hoops to jump through with that. What we do have responsibility and authority to address is the sidewalk issue. So that's the piece of it that we're going to take care of with this resolution. So I hope that answers those concerns.
Well, I mean, I get your opinion on that, but you still have the fiduciary responsibility to avoid known liability of cost. That's your responsibility, and you know you need to live up to that.
Well, I have some numbers here that I'm glad to read out. I know you can't see the room. There's a hand in the back we want to address before I jump into that. Yes, sir.
Some of the fund under Nathan Coy. With this folder, because it's breaking the sidewalk, has its tree risk assessment. That falls underneath the code where it says residential property within Eagles Landing, Coy, Florida, permit is required to remove trees within the Coy city limits. Including dead trees can be applied on mine. Eagles Landing is under a code jurisdiction, which has specific tree removal ordinance. The permit is not needed for residential property if you have a documentation from certified arborist or licensed landscaper, architect stating the tree are hazardous and removal for the only solution. Even without a permit, hazardous tree risk assessments must be on site during removal or submitted city trees. So that hazardous tree thing is what comes to mind because the roots is growing up.
Right, but you have to have an arborist come out and determine that, and that any owner has the right to do it at a time.
I'm saying it's like a loophole for you guys. Everything I'm looking at is not just for us.
Well, potentially if the association's looking to remove the trees, potentially. And that's something that would apply in any situation where they believe that there's a hazardous tree. And I would recommend that to the extent that the association believes that there's an actual physical hazardous tree. Usually that's a situation where it's very clear that it's an immediate threat to a structure. in most cases, a lifting sidewalk or a cracking street, in my experience, would not apply to that. Now, it may apply 10, 15 years down the road, depending on, or however long it takes to get worse or create a problem where it does create the safety concern. But generally speaking, a lifting sidewalk would not be that, in my experience.
It's gotta have a problem. The tree's gotta have a problem. Sometimes the problem. Remember, so you take it out.
Right. Well, about 6 months ago, I have Mike from the city, you know, came out.
Mike Rumor?
Yeah, Mike Rumor, yeah. And I took him to 8 of the worst situation here and let him look at it and tell me his opinion. And yeah, he kind of like, you know, thinking about it, but eventually he said, I think you need to move these trees because they were pretty much ready to destroy the infrastructure. So he did tell me to go ahead and move those trees.
I'd like to point out one more thing if I could. There's a development to the south of us, just on the other side of the toll road, the turnpike rather. It's called Westmere, and they're about 10 to 12 years older than we are. And we could see what was happening to them at that time, and we can look at what has happened to them since that time. What happened to them last year was that so many tree roots from these street trees went out into the street and under the street that they fouled up the city water system that was providing water to the development. And the city, exercising their right to do so, came in and tore up the streets, just tore them up, dug them up, and repaired the pipes and the plumbing, and left. It's not their responsibility to repair what damage they do. It's the HOA. So the HOA had a huge bill to pay for the city's work to do that. I think we want to try to avoid that kind of a scenario. And the only way to avoid that is to get rid of these trees. We had this, I had back when we were going through all this, we had a big town hall meeting. Some of you were here at the time, may remember. But I had the city forester from the city of Orlando come out and give his opinion. I took him around and looked at every single street tree. And he looked at mine, which is no longer there, but he looked at it and he said, that tree will eventually take up all the space between the street and the house side of the curb. You will have a tree trunk that will take up all of that space. And that's inevitable. All of these trees will do that eventually. And, you know, if we're just sitting on a time bomb by saying, okay, well, let's just see what happens and find ways around and you know, pick apart the city code and so on and so forth. But you really have a fiduciary responsibility to the homeowners to minimize the threat, the financial threat that these trees pose by doing damage to the sidewalks.
Appreciate those comments. Let me jump in the numbers real quickly on what we're looking at fiscally. Now, granted, these trees eventually are going to die. They're going to get blown over by hurricanes. They'll need to be cut down for various reasons. Is the likelihood that they will all happen at once very high? No. Is it possible? Of course it is. Anything's possible, right? But let's look at actuals and what we're really historically looking at, and based on that, project as best we can. That's what fiduciary responsibility is. Use the facts you have, project the future as best you can. We asked the management company to tell us how many sidewalks have been repaired over the past 5 years. What did that cost? And some other facts here I'll go into. So between 2020 and 2025, that's 5.5 years. 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, then half of 2025. 349 sidewalk repairs. Total cost, $84,390. That's an average of $241 per sidewalk repair. Total cost $84,000. Well, what's that look like in something I can bite and chew? In 1 year, that's an average of $15,343. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, we have 613, Warren's number said 614 homes that we're talking about in Westyn Bay. Let's go with the number 613. That'll make the numbers a little bit more expensive, perhaps make these numbers a little bit more scared than if I had used math with 614. That's $25.03 per home per year on average over the past 5.5 years that the sidewalks have cost. Okay, $25 a year per home. Your quarterly dues, that's about $6.25 of your quarterly dues assessment going toward that expense. But that's not just homeowner sidewalks. That's the sidewalks down the boulevard. That's the sidewalks right out here, the common areas, all of that. Ask the management company, how much was billed to the homeowners in those 5.5 years? Now, nothing was billed this year. So we're just talking about the 5-year period from 2020 through 2024. $16,986 was billed to the homeowners. That's an average of $3,397 a year in sidewalk repair that homeowners paid for. Yeah, let's put that in practical terms. For each one of us, that's $5.54 per home per year. Put in more realistic terms, of your $2,000 quarterly assessment, $1.39 of your $2,000 assessment went to those sidewalk repairs. At the same time, we're putting $9,000 a month into 2 reserve accounts specifically designated for, among other things, sidewalk repair. So we're socking away into reserves well more than we're spending on the sidewalk repairs, even if we never build another homeowner. I mentioned earlier in the reserve report, we have $2.6 million in reserves. There are 4 covenant mandated reserve accounts. One is for repaving the streets. That reserve account holds $1.1 million. We can't touch that for anything other than street repair, repaving, those kind of things. There's another one that has to do with, it's the bottom of page 1 of that finance report, for ponds and drainage. There's currently $4,875 in that reserve account. That's covenant mandated. We can't touch that for anything other than the ponds and the drainage. All those other reserve accounts you see there, the total $1.4 million, and there's some internally designated pieces of that 1.4. Eagles Landing Wall is one of them. It's holding $111,000. There's some for the pool shell, for physical structures, for the gates, the courts, and the playground, these kind of things. Those are all internally designated accounts. The board has the authority, and this was discussed in the reserve study the other night. I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I'm bringing it back with this. In reality, we have approximately $1.3 million in reserves and adding $10,000, more than $10,000 a month into those reserves. So to have a fiscal calamity because the association is going to pay for sidewalk repair just doesn't exist. Now, again, at some point, there's going to be larger expenses related to the trees. They're going to die. They're going to fall over. Lightning's going to strike one. It's going to split. Name the scenario, it's going to happen. But we're putting so much into reserves mandated by the covenants, and that the previous board did properly and effectively. We have plenty of money set aside to address those issues when they come up, and we will continue to have plenty of money to address those issues as they come up. So that's the financial piece of it. So any comments related to that? And we do need to move along in the interest of time. But I don't want to cut anybody's comments short.
I would only add that as these trees get older and bigger, more and more damage is going to occur, and it's going to be more expensive to repair. And the other thing I'd like to add is that all those monies that are in the reserve accounts are there because of the reserve studies that we've done over the years. They've dictated what goes in there and for what. And specifically not addressed in those studies was was sidewalk damage caused by tree roots. What they estimate their replacement to be was based on the wear and tear on the concrete, not damage from external sources. So that's not accounted for in those accounts.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
We appreciate all the comments that we've heard, and I think we need to move forward with the resolution. The resolution that's being proposed for action this evening by the board. Resolution addresses the sidewalk costs and the ownership of the sidewalk, which we've established as the belonging to the HOA. So I entertain a motion to move on the resolution as we have before us.
So moved.
Is seconded.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. All right. Next item. Yes,
Does the resolution address the maintenance then going forward that will be in conflict with the DCCRs?
No,
No, it's intended to actually dovetail with the requirements of the CCR.
So who ultimately will be responsible for the maintenance of the sidewalk going forward?
So there's a whole section in there that talks about what the owner's responsibility is for maintaining. And then those repairs that are needed to the sidewalk are the associations per sections 8.2 to 8.4 of the declaration.
One of your comments earlier was about safety and mold can be a safety issue.
Sure.
So how?
So the association has the authority to step in if there's a safety concern that's observed. Having said that, it is possible that the association could have that be a self-help assessment against that owner if that owner has not properly cleaned the sidewalk pursuant to the association's documents.
How is that any different though, respective of the tree situation? And they don't.
Because the
line-
difference is the lifting of the sidewalk versus just the cleaning. The governing documents as they currently exist are clear that the adjacent owner is responsible for cleaning the sidewalk, not for repairing the sidewalk.
My question is, are we really in compliance with the city? And I have seen no document to justify that. We have trees someplace, no trees someplace, and I just can't, I'd like to see some document.
and that's why the resolution addressed the sidewalks. Yes, the trees are related, but because those open questions about the compliance with the city of HOA documents, we can't address the trees. Should they come out? Should they stay? That isn't piece. Now, maintaining the sidewalk and then the definition of maintenance is part of it. And essentially, you can see in the resolution language toward the end, essentially what it's saying is owner responsible maintenance is everything above the ground. It's the kind of stuff you do yourself. You mow the lawn, you use the string trimmer, you trim the branches if they're too close to the ground, plant flowers around your mailbox, that kind of stuff.
And that tells you right in these here, it tells you that weed, edge, trim dead branches. That's exactly.
Yes.
And sweep sand off.
That's what it's that's part of the safety. Anything below the ground, root mitigation and those kind of things. There's a term, and Mr. Hess can speak to this, kind of a term in the legal world for the reasonable person. Would a reasonable person understand making sure your roots are trimmed as regular homeowner maintenance? And I would argue that no, that's a specialized thing, and you really don't even want to do that unless you want the next hurricane to come in and blow your tree over because you've weakened its root structure. So in a sense, not in a sense, in fact, we're defining owner responsible maintenance as everything above the ground. So what the tree roots do to the sidewalk is what the motion addressed. Who's responsible for fixing that? And it is the association. So I hope that helps with the question.
One question, I remember when we asked the builder to come in and put new streets in place. To me, it was a good idea. 5 years later, I started seeing where they started damming. I pay attention to details. So I see where it was gonna create a problem. That's before 2013. I called, Sutherland, was the management company back then. And I asked them, can I take this tree out? They told me no. I said, why? It's HOA tree. So I said, okay. I took control of it myself. And what I did, I turned it into a car tree. I leave the stump right here, just a little top. And I tried to maintain it that way. So when in 2013, when the board told us to go ahead and take the tree out, I was the first one to put mine out. Because I see what damage it was gonna create from that stage, you know. And it was like about, 8 inch in diameter or something like that. And I dug it out, and someday I just get out, just dug the tree out. That was it. And after that, I have no problem here. You know, so, you know, my thing is that there's so much controversial going on because, for example, there's people who buy a home and find a tree in front of it and later get a bill for $600-700, whatever it is, for a sidewalk up here. You know, that's not fair. You know, and they didn't know anything about it. So careful. You know, so that's my take.
We're gonna move on to improvement in the package.
Warren, can I make one more very short comment? Please.
The matter has been resolved already, Greg. We're moving on.
Okay, well, we'll be pursuing legal action. That's what I wanted to let you know, that we're gonna challenge this in the court system, so just be advised.
All right, thank you.
That's great.
They can move on with the approval of the pool and chemical system, the annual maintenance to the package. The chemical system is $10,000, $10,700. And the annual maintenance would be the $1,600. So package. Entertain a motion to approve those two items.
Just if you could specify in your motion to approve the chemical system, I believe it's 10,200 to be allocated to the pool reserves account. 3040.
Okay.
In the motion.
All right, so
And the annual maintenance costs in the amount of 1,600, obviously to be operating.
so with that addition, it coming from the reserves account for the purchase of the equipment. And the operation would be operating expense.
So moved.
Seconded,
I second.
seconded by Tiffany, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one we'd like to do is to ratify the clubhouse matlock replacement. That
In the amount of 616.81.
$615.81.
616.81.
$616.81.
Right. $616.81 for the clubhouse matlock replacement. I have a motion to move on that.
So moved.
Seconded, seconded by Carl, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The third item is for the approval of the AC unit in the guard shack out at front. That's for $3,685. It was installed today.
You're gonna hold that comment.
They've been hot for weeks.
Yeah.
And you know.
So moved.
You need a seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
All, any opposed? Carries unanimously. And the the drain change, effort that we talked about on the, Eagles Landing project. That bill is for $6,278. And
And also for the,
there's another one,
yeah, for the drill order for the.
$815. And the drill order,
So moved.
seconded,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries unanimously. The pool landscape project. You've seen the rendering.
I think on accident, I took the rendering in here instead of the actual quote, I'm sorry.
Right.
So there's the rendering, that's what it's gonna look like. As a total cost of the entire enhancement project will be $48,515.50.
That comes from.
And that comes from the landscaping reserves for replacements.
So the proposal is for the pool landscape project for $48,000.
And just so everyone knows, the current balance of that landscaping reserve account is $138,924.
And it's actually fully reserved right now. You have not been adding money in there every year. It was fully reserved for the replacements and so we have a little bit of front gate to do some other stuff that you guys can start funding again.
Great, thank you, Natalie.
Second.
A motion on the approval of that landscape project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion by Brian, seconded by Carl. Carried unanimously. Okay, we want to, although we've identified several problems that cause our pool to continue to get cloudy. We want to move it from 5 days per week to 7 days per week. Until we have all the equipment installed. So we just need to improve.
Well, they didn't get us the.
They didn't give us a
the
cost.
addendum. I am asking for an addendum from the pool company to show us what the cost would be to go from 5 days to 7 days a week.
Okay.
They haven't provided that yet, so let's just. Take
but-
care of that next time, yeah.
Alright,
But in the meantime, right now they are on 7 days a week as a courtesy until we replace all the equipment.
alright. So we'll table that issue. Now, for funds,
And I think you skipped over the extension request for gate violation. There's a home on Zero that has had gate violation.
2535
Yes. So she's requesting some additional time. I think her email is included and should be included in the packet. She's requesting some additional time to complete that project. Due to financial issues, and let me just pull it up.
just said we just need some more time.
Yeah, let me just pull up. Let me tell you when the violation was opened first. Okay, so it was opened in April, so it's just been a couple months, and she has stayed in touch with me, and is now asking for an official extension from the board, so I've already sent.
Did she have,
Already recommended.
did she ask for a time frame?
She did not.
Did,
Typically, the board will do like 3 months.
did you provide a deadline? It seems like her email is referencing a deadline from the association.
Right, that's what the board is gonna vote on, and then I'll let her know what the deadline is. Oh, I've been in touch with her for the past couple months because I sent her a violation in April. And I gave her a 30 days extension. She wasn't able to do it, so I gave her another 30 days extension. And I said, I can't give you any more extensions, the board has to.
So the current deadline that's in place is what, July 30?
I think it was July, yeah,
July 30?
yeah.
What is, obviously this predates this board, what is the violation?
Oh, it's to repaint the house.
Is it color or condition or?
It's fading, the color's pretty
Okay.
faded and cracking. I try not to send those violations unless they're really pretty bad because it is a bit.
Okay, so it's not pink, it's just.
No, it's just, it needs to be.
Condition.
Well, yeah. But I know it's a big expense, so I try not to send those messages.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what has been the norm in the past?
In the past, the board will usually give, for a project like this, because it is a big project, and she does need to get ARC approval prior to it if she's going to change the color of the house. I would say 3 months is should be the absolute deadline, because like I said, I've already given her a couple extensions, so.
It's really about art first. Maybe.
Are there any, go through art?
Yeah, exactly, and that takes 30 days, so,
Are
yeah,
there any complaints from her neighbors?
I haven't received any complaints.
So that would be free. You don't want the art, you have to submit a request to the art. Next art meeting, or do you know when the next art meeting is gonna be?
I can tell you,
It's the second Monday to the 11th.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that's.
August 11th.
Also, that is why I'm refusing some, and there's just got to say, how much, how long you have to go to project.
To be honest, I don't know.
That's what I'm very sorry. As you have seen, so you know, you.
We have a request,
80.
and based on the fact that just before the art, I suggest that we give her until the end of the year.
No.
Yeah, so it's been a motion to, sorry, for the motion to, give the respondent until the end of the year, considering just go for the art. So if she misses this deadline, she has at least 1 month more. And based on what she has written in here, till the end of the year.
So December 31st?
Yeah.
To complete the
Complete the project.
That's not true.
And part of that is, you know, we exist to serve the community, but the homeowners are part of the community, obviously. That she hasn't had complaints from the neighbor, that Leland has not received complaints from the neighbors about the condition of the home. We're much more inclined to allow her grace. We don't know what's going on in her life. And so we should allow her the grace to get it done within a reasonable time. And we think by the end of the year is a reasonable time. We don't want to be outrageous about, deadlines. However, if it becomes a problem and the neighbors start complaining, and those kind of things, then we can pick the issue back up. Just want it to be known that we want to take care of the homeowners as best we can within the guidelines of the covenants that we adhere to.
So there's a motion on the floor to give the resident until the end of the year, some into compliance.
I said,
So I'll make the motion to give them extra time.
Okay, and seconded by Carl.
Yeah.
Motion by Alex, seconded by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Hey, this is what community looks like. What you guys are doing, this is what community looks like. You're looking out for your neighbors and stuff like that. This is something.
Well, thank you, sir. We are neighbors.
Exactly.
Hopefully, we're friends too, but we're neighbors.
Hey, I'm the least neighborly guy. I'm an introvert, but I'm here for the community. Thank you, guys.
And the referrals that we have, Natalie?
Yes, there's a few, they're listed. And the pictures are provided. In the packet.
Okay. So the first one for the repaint. Referrals, we'll go through them individually or just all of them collectively?
Collectively is fine,
Okay.
and just keep it in mind.
Okay,
Several.
all right. Okay, so we have several. Five referrals to the attorney.
And for everybody in the room, these specific ones, these are many letters went out to the homeowners, they don't reach out, they don't respond to the letters, they call ignore it, so if anybody reaches out, the board does grant extensions, it's just we haven't gotten anywhere with these.
So these are referrals for covenant enforcement. Okay. So for the 5 listed addresses.
Make a motion. Don't make a motion.
Okay. Motion to send them before covenant enforcement, is it seconded?
Second.
Motion made by Carl, seconded by Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We have none for the flat fees, proceed with litigation. Delinquency suspensions,
Just motion to approve the suspension of accounts and arrears over $50 and past due over 90 days for assessments.
we have a motion to,
I make a motion to.
motion made by Carl,
Second.
seconded by Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The last thing on the agenda is, for our next board meeting to be August 25th, 7 p.m. Appreciate all the folks that were here, the feedback that we received on the issue this evening. And on that note, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Will the video of this meeting be made available to the homeowners?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Will the video of this meeting via Zoom be made available to the homeowners?
On video, if it'll be
Yes.
available, yes, it will.
Yes, it will. We
Okay,
have
thank
thumbs
you.
up, the control room in the back.
Thank you.
We're trying to work with Dwelling Live to see if we can have the limit increased so that it can post it on Dwellings Live.
Or if not, for whatever reason, we will try to find a way to do it on our website.
Right, but it will be available.
I really have one question. What's the status on that overgrown home? And also
It's with the attorney.
Oh, it's out.
It's with the attorney. They've already been sent a pre-suit mediation letter. After pre-suit goes out, how many days do they have, Brian?
I don't work in that.
I don't know.
department. I believe they have 20 days to respond. And then it has to be scheduled within 90 days after the response is received. To actually hold that mediation within 90 days.
Right.
And I don't know, just because I'm not the attorney in the office that works with me.
If there's no response from the mediation, the pre-suit mediation that goes
I
out,
can go forward with
and then the attorney moves forward with the lawsuit, with board approval, of course. But we haven't gotten there yet. It is with the attorney right now.
There's a statutory requirement for us to make an attempt for pre-suit mediation first.
Okay.
It looks bad. It's bad. It's really bad.
It's real bad.
That's right. Is that home vacant?
Can we have try cut the grass at least?
There was a resident that used to cut the grass, and that homeowner was dependent on the doing. And since that homeowner that was, or the resident that was helping out stopped, the homeowner has no communication, as you can see, it's negligent. And it is what it is, it's the present state today. I heard that the homeowner does come to check on the property occasionally, maybe daily, maybe weekly, so they do come and visit. I don't know, I heard they haven't moved in yet, so I'm not sure what that looks like, but they.
There's gonna become a safety problem with rodents and other things.
Well, we have the authority to have it cut and send them the bill.
Brian, I haven't done a self-help in a long time.
And each association is different, so that's something I need to look into.
Yeah, we can do it according to.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
Usually, yes.
I think it's a 10-day or a 14-day.
It all depends on every association. Most of them require that I've seen require a 30-day notice.
It might be.
But again, and that's exactly the answer. It's not statutory, it's per each association's documents. So each association has a different procedure.
Yeah, I think to do a self-help, though, I think he's right, it's 30 days.
Remember,
So let me look into doing a self-help, and.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, of course, reach out to me.
Because I think we've already sent it to the attorney, and I think the next step after the pre-suit mediation is according now with new legislator is that you have to send out the option. It's an option letter that has to go out to the homeowner, and you guys send it out, giving them the opportunity to agree to a self-help.
So that's usually at a later stage,
Oh.
not before the pre-suit mediation.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is this, talk to the folks in the office that are handling that to make sure that the association understands the potential pitfalls, because we're already in the midst.
Right, because we've already.
We've already
started,
opened the legal
so-
end of the case.
Right.
So there are considerations if you're going to go forward and mow the lawn, that may take one of the claims off, which is fine. It's just there have to be things we have to change in
Right,
that.
right. And
So I don't wanna say it's totally okay to do it. It probably is okay to do it, but definitely coordinate that with the
Yeah, I'll
attorney that's
keep
handling that in
saying
the office.
Mary in the office, so that's fine.
Yeah, but
Next question.
I have a comment on that in my last neighborhood, like years ago, same thing. We were in the HOA too, but I think, I don't even know if the HOA, somebody called code enforcement, the gentleman here was saying it's a city issue. And the city came out, put a big plaque in their lawn and cut their grass completely, and then, I did something.
Gave it
So
up.
they must have noticed, and I think it could have been the neighbor that did it, I don't know if the association did it. Or-
Yeah, and I don't know how the city treats doing that within gated communities. That's the concern that I would have. It's worth a call to find out, whether they would. I can't speak for the
Yeah,
city.
and I feel
what
like,
the city
I
would
would
do.
call them too, because, if it's a safety issue, it shouldn't have.
Natalie, remembers about, a couple of years ago, we had a house in Golden. And, we have the, landscaping guys went in and cleaned that out.
Yeah, on below.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we went through the whole self-help the self-help process for that.
Oh,
So
yeah, right.
that was different because we started it off with self-help and we just have the landscapers come out and send them their noticing and the landscapers, which are, this is different because this was sent to the attorney. But it's progressively gotten worse since it's been with the attorney, so self-help wasn't really an option, it was just, there were some needs, it was. So it was sent over to the attorney. And now that process has started, I just need to get with the attorney to see what the procedure would be to move forward with the self-help. But it is an option, because you guys can do it.
It's always an option.
And there's
Well, it's
neighbors,
usually an option.
Yeah, no, it is.
and again, there's neighbors next door across the street who have to look at that.
It's why I get so mad when I drive by, I'm like.
If I lived across the street from that, I'd want something
It's bad.
done. So,
Next to it.
It's
and I
bad,
know there's a process and a procedure, but
it's really bad, so.
all right.
Well, on that note, motion to adjourn. So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay, second, motion by Brian, seconded by Alex. All in favor?
aye.
We did.
At 8:55.
Not bad.